All right, welcome to another episode of Just Engage University podcast. I am your host, Geovanna Burgess White, and I am here with my co-host,
Yvette Valdenegro. Welcome.
And we're excited to be back. We've been gone for 2 weeks, but we are back at it with an amazing guest today. If you've missed any of our past episodes, do not forget two things. You can find us on our YouTube channel if you want to watch us live or any replays, or you can find us on our Facebook group and replays on Instagram. And then this is also available where any podcast plays. So Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple. So if you want to listen, if you are in the wedding industry, if you're a couple, if you're looking for any information behind the scenes on the wedding industry, we are here for you. And the most important thing is we're all about our couples really building that relationship before walking down the aisle. So Yvette and I have had some amazing, last 4 or 5 months. We went to Wedding MBA. We did some surveys with our clients. And today we're bringing on Kristin Binford, who is a venue coach and also a venue owner. And she's going to share some insight with you on things that we're just seeing in 2022. And the most important thing is just getting information to couples on, what they need and why does this wedding industry make it so difficult for couples to get pricing, to get information in general? Why do you have to go visit with a venue? Why do you have to go visit with people before you get pricing up front? So before we bring her on, anything else you want to add?
I just want to say, I want to reemphasize what you said. She is a venue owner. She's a venue coach and has helped hundreds of people. She's on another part of the country. Yes. And she was just at Wedding NBA speaking on this very topic. So it's not like Yvette and Geo, who have their little opinions, being in the industry for 20 years total. It's like, no, this is going to be so key and so amazing. I know for some the venue owners, for one, and most importantly, our viewers that are getting married that are now in the process of like, okay, what am I looking for? How can this help me? And moving forward. So I'm super excited to have her on because she's a powerhouse.
If you're watching live, make sure you send in your questions down because we can definitely answer them. And if you're watching on the replay, just put #replay and we'll go back and answer any of those questions. And we have all the information on where to find Kristin and all of our posts. If you want to know more after this episode, please reach out to her. But without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Kristin Binford. Hi.
Good morning. Oh my goodness, this is going to be so much fun.
We are excited to have you. We're so blessed to be able to see you at Wedding MBA last year. And, things are changing. It's 2022. We had this podcast since 2018, and we're here for couples. We're here for the wedding industry and just really to give them the education and information that they need. So tell them a little bit about, we did introduce you, but who you are and what you've been doing these past 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So as they said, my name is Kristin Binford. I own a wedding venue. We are just west of St. Louis. Gosh, this is going to be our 9th season, which just seems crazy. We've booked over 700 weddings. So I feel like we've had a lot of at-bats, having really great conversations with amazing couples. And I love so much that you are speaking both to couples and the wedding industry. And that's just something that we don't see. And so it's a great opportunity to be here with you guys today. So I own a venue and I'm super passionate about just taking friction out of the process for couples, serving people, doing the right thing. And our approach to business has been a little bit unique, I think. And so I realized about 5 years ago how many wedding venue owners really needed help because so many people get into this business and they think I'm just going to build a beautiful building. And that means that, my phone's just going to ring. And that's not really how it works. You guys know that in this business. So I started coaching venue owners about 5 years ago, and it has just been so cup filling because it's really fun to get to be successful yourself, but it's so rewarding to help other people find success too. So thanks for having me.
I agree. I met you back in 2019, and it was like, I remember you just having this amazing, coaching sessions with us and with the group and your Facebook group, but just in general with all the questions that no one wants to answer. And then also always thinking of the client first, because at the end of the day, that's, how we get our business is making sure that we're serving that customer. And, now 2022, so many things have changed, and transparency extremely has been key in our industry for a long time. But I think right now more than ever, we did an episode a couple of months back. It's just people want to know, how much am I going to be paying? What's included? Like, I want everything. And I think the wedding industry thinks, oh, well, we got to meet. We got to come sit down. Let's talk about it. But we don't go buy anything. Big purchases, 30, 40, $100,000, $200,000 purchases without knowing, cars, homes. So why are we making it so difficult for couples to find out, like, how much does it really cost for me to get, married?
Yeah.
And I think, oh, sorry, go ahead, Yvette.
No, go ahead, answer that. And then I was going to ask you a question.
Well, it's also interesting to me that we make it hard, and that being transparent is so important, but it's not just about pricing, right? Like, couples want to know that, but as a venue owner, and I know we'll talk about this today, it's like, well, Kristin, if I just put my pricing on my website, does that solve all the things? And it doesn't solve all the things, right? So go ahead. I apologize for
No, well, one, I thought in my head, I'm like, you know what? Not all our viewers know what Wedding MBA is. We just assume that. So Wedding MBA is a yearly conference, convention, whatever you want to call it, of wedding professionals that get together all across America. And then you have people that are speaking. So it's like almost like a big trade show, like the brides go to here in Houston. There's something we call Bridal Extravaganza that's at our convention center, and hundreds of brides walk through and they meet hundreds of other venues or vendors. Same thing for the vendors and people that are in the wedding industry. And so you were speaking at that. So I kind of want to just give, that information, but you said a word I thought was really interesting when you were describing who you were.
Okay.
You said the friction in the wedding industry at the venue. So what does that word or term mean to you?
Yeah, I think what I mean by that is just when we step back and look at what's happening in the world, right? Who is winning right now outside of the wedding industry, I think is something important to look at, because historically the wedding industry hasn't been quick to evolve. So what are we seeing just from like a consumer behavior perspective is how do we get shipped something faster? How do we get the information that we want right now today and have it in our hands right now today? And so what I mean by friction is anything in between the person who wants to buy something and what they actually want, and steps in the process that are making that any more challenging or any harder for them. To me, that's where I see friction and opportunity for the wedding industry, because, it started off Amazon. It was great that they're shipping stuff to my house, but then I want it in 2 days. Now I want it in 1 day. Now I want a robot to deliver it to me, right? So companies who are really winning are figuring out how to take friction out of the process. And the wedding industry, I see that a little bit less so. That would be my perspective on that.
Okay. Well, my next question to that one would be, then what are you seeing that those little friction-y things, what are those things that need to be taken out?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Good question. To me, it's like building 100-layer cake. And if you look at every layer, every step, every decision in your business, I would say that our approach to business has been, how do we take friction out of the process? And you guys talk about this all the time. Being transparent about your pricing is one friction point in the process. But it's just one of many, right? And I'm going to speak kind of both sides of the coin here. Sometimes I think venue owners and people in general are just such givers. Like, I want to be so helpful. I want to give everybody everything they need. And in doing so, sometimes I think a lot of venue owners in one form of life or another tend to be people pleasers, right? So we want to give and give and give and do. And sometimes we do that at the detriment of ourselves. So just because your amazing couple really wants to text you at 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. doesn't mean that we have to be available all of the time at any given channel, right? So there's places that friction is valuable, or slowing a process down is valuable if you really want to build a sustainable business, a business that you love, a business that brings you joy. But the places that we're putting friction into the business because we feel like, well, they just have to tour first, or they won't understand the value until I talk to them, that's telling me you're putting friction into the process, and steps upstream have a lot of opportunity for improvement. So
yeah, and I feel like most of the wedding industry and all we call ourselves the vendors, not just the venue, the vendors. Yeah. I mean, why do they make you? I mean, this we don't, but why do most of them make you book a consultation, book a tour, meet at some form without giving information first. Like, I don't know where that came from.
I feel like that really comes from a place of scarcity. And coming from a place of, well, I just know, this is what I hear from venue owners all the time. Like, I know if I can get them here, we're more likely to book them. But couples don't want to be sold, right? We all want to buy. I love a great buying experience. My husband and I were just talking about this the other day. Like, he loves a great buying experience, but we don't want to be sold. So,
yeah. And that, I think, for the most part, even again, buying a house, buying a car, those big purchases in your life, you're doing your research before. You're not just walking into the car like, let's just see what the salesman's going to sell me today. Like, we don't ever think, we know what we need. We know how much room we need in the car. We know how much we need in what we need in a home. It's like, and so for couples, nobody ever wants to talk about the budget. Nobody ever wants to talk about the B word. They don't know it. We know that as a venue. I would say 80% of couples have no idea about the wedding budget. And then the other 20%, okay, they have a little bit of idea here and there, but they're not educated in it. So we are literally, I feel, as a venue owner, have that, like, we have to kind of give them a little bit more education of, like, this is just one piece of the puzzle.
for sure.
We have 15 other pieces, and, like, what's your overall budget? Because we don't want the venue to take 50% of it, which happens all the time. I see it all the time.
And those couples are the most likely to cancel because they realize they can't afford everything else if they don't understand how the venue fits into the puzzle. And what you just shared there is such a great example of friction, right? When we think about how we used to buy cars, you had to go on the lot and you had to do the song and dance with the salesperson because the sticker price wasn't on the car. And then it was about haggling, right? The high volume car dealerships that are selling a lot of cars, like, their pricing's online. It's not negotiable. They make money by turning over their inventory, right? So that's a great example of where an industry is taking friction out of the process. And you can fight it for a minute, but ultimately, if I can choose from 5 dealerships who already show me pricing and I don't have to go spend 4 hours haggling with somebody, I value my time, and most people value their time. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time.
Oh, 100%. I love that. We're going to quote that. Okay, so as a venue owner, and because this is important, how do you make it easy for your couples? Like, I mean, I know you coach and you have a Facebook group of wedding venue owners, and so you teach this as well. You don't just do it; you actually teach it. And I know most venues that have worked with you are very successful venues because of that. But just tell us a couple of things that, like, what you've done and what you've taught to make this process a lot easier for couples.
So I think what's been so different about our approach than so many venue owners. I think so many venue owners build a beautiful space, and then they're not really clear about who they want to serve. And they're really like, well, whoever can afford our pricing is the client that will book. Our entire approach to business is like, who do we really want to serve? Who are we really a good fit for? What do they need? And how do I start to make business decisions on how to build my business around them, not just my building? Like, your building is part of it, but when you don't really know who the couple is that you want to serve, you naturally make it harder because you don't know what they need, and not every couple needs the same thing. So if you ask me, like, Kristin, who is your ideal couple? Who do you serve at your venue? We love kind, grateful couples that want to have a beautiful wedding. They are smart with their money, right? They're willing to stretch a little bit for the venue because they know we provide so much value in our pricing. But they don't want to sell their firstborn child to have a nice wedding, right? Like, that's who we love to attract. And couples who have a really big budget and maybe don't have to make such careful decisions, we love them too. But I also know we're not as great of a fit for those couples sometimes because we can't do plated meals. We don't have a coat check. Like, there's things that are natural limitations about our space that just, I know that with their budget, they could potentially get a space that really gives them everything they want.
Yeah, which is why there's so many venues. People talk about that. So it's like, oh my God, it's such a saturated. It's really not. Like, this is with any industry, with any business. Like, if you know who you're serving, who your person is, it's going to be a lot easier. I mean, could I do $100,000 wedding at my venue? Of course I could. Is that what we do? No, absolutely not. There's other venues in Houston that serve that client who wants that, Pinterest, immaculate. And so we same thing. We serve couples who are paying for their own wedding, who we understand, we want them to make those financial decisions. If they're paying their wedding between 12 to 16 months, like we know who our customer is. We have, two amazing options for them. And then we have, a team of vendors who reflect what we reflect, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, all inclusive. Like, what does that mean? No, they're like our family. The way we service our clients, they service. It's an experience from the very beginning until the end. And so it's really important for people. Like, well, why, as a venue owner, you should be able to serve everybody. Well, no, I have probably 15 venues within 20 miles of me. I can't serve all the couples, but and I do recommend when people don't book me or they're looking for something else, I'm like, how could we have done something better? Is it something we don't have? Here's a couple of venues that I know that can serve you best. And I think that's the relationship that everybody in any industry should have is, when we aren't the right fit, where can we send that client and how can we serve them?
And I celebrate you for that, because I would say that's not the typical mindset of wedding venues, right? It's either established venue owners are sometimes feeling like, oh my gosh, there's all these new venues coming into the marketplace, and new venue owners are feeling like, well, why would established venue owners want to be friends with me? We're the new kids on the block. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes people aren't friendly, but you're not going to know if you don't reach out and create that relationship. And I mean, we are friends with so many venues in our market. Sometimes we're not the right fit. Sometimes we're just booked. You know what I mean? And I would much rather send that couple to a place that I know is going to take great care of them. Or like sometimes people have requests that we just can't accommodate, or we're not a good fit. Like we had a wedding request one time that somebody wanted to have carnival rides. Well, we can't do that at our space. That's not a good fit. But I know an amazing venue that would be super great, So it's always better to have the relationships. And sometimes people aren't going to want to be friendly, but that doesn't mean anything about you. It's worth a try.
I agree. I want to know, if it's something that we could have done better too. Like I always ask couples, and one of the main things for us is we don't have an indoor ceremony space, and I get that. I lose a lot of clients for that. But I like to know, and I think it's weird for couples when they're like, I'm like, just let me know, even if you don't book us. Like I would love to know where you booked. And, I'll even get that text like, we found another venue, and I'm like, okay, well, congratulations. Where did you pick? And 9 out of 10 like ghost me. They're like, oh, I don't want to tell her. And I'm like, I just want to know. That way, I can look at their amenities. I can look at things that we can improve on, because that's important to us as well. And I want to go back to something you said earlier about it's not just as easy as putting pricing on your website. We've always done it. We've evolved. We've put what's included, like hidden fees, the taxes, the service fees, like the whole 9 yards, because people have seen that pricing has been stated, but it's not the real pricing. So let's talk about what you mean with it's just not about the pricing. Put it on your website.
So there's a lot of risks. Sometimes people reach out to me, especially newer venue owners, and they're like, well, should we put pricing on our website? And they feel so nervous about it. And in a vacuum, right? Like if I go super narrow on that question, I personally think that there's not a very clear answer. And I'll tell you why. I know that might be surprising to you guys, because if you don't understand your marketplace, you don't know who your ideal client is, you have no idea whether you're priced correctly in the marketplace or not. Maybe you wheeled and dealed and made discounts with some people and not other people. And now you're going to have clients who are mad at you, right? Like there's a lot that goes into making the decision to be transparent about pricing. Do I think that's where everyone should move to? In a major way, yes. Maybe the super premium market, I feel differently about that. Those are different kind of experiences, I think, than many venue owners are kind of playing in. But if you just put pricing on your website, but you don't know who your client is, your pricing is wrong, you're underpriced, so you're leaving margin on the table, or you're overpriced, so you're going to leave dates on the table, or couples don't understand your value. Like I hear that all the time, you guys. I can't tell you how many times that venue owners are like, well, we have pricing on our website, but the first question I get is, what are your pricing and packages? That tells me your website is not doing its job, right? Or yeah, we have couples come and tour with us and they knew our pricing before we got here. We sent them this email, which God bless you couples, because we make it hard, right? Like there's just so much friction in the wedding industry. We sent them this email that's 72 paragraphs long, and somewhere in there was a dollar sign that they had to find. And when they get here, they don't understand our value. That's not just about putting pricing on your website, right? Really articulating your value proposition is different than pricing.
Yeah, that's such a hard one. And I think in the past couple of years, with the change, like you said, well, some venues are open and not open. I mean, or closing down. They've negotiated, like you said, okay, I'll do these special things just to get people in the door, but don't tell anybody so they can't price. But being on the other end of that from a planner's perspective, it's been crazy. I get the phone calls, but being pop-up weddings from people who either went to the courthouse and found that kind of boring and went, okay, we did it during COVID, but now we want something bigger. Or I didn't understand what all-inclusive meant with my venue that I was at. And we quickly realized that we can't afford what we thought, because when someone says, oh yeah, it's $5,000 to be at our venue. Okay, $5,000 to rent the space and have the chairs and the tables. That doesn't include everything else. And so then you get such frustrated clients, but there's, I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like when you said scarcity, it's also like a shark mentality too. Like, come to my venue, like you said, come tour. I want to talk to you. And then if I talk to you, then I can sell you the space. It's almost like put yourself in those same shoes and go, you're going to go buy a car. And someone goes, just come see the car. Just come talk to me because I'm going to sell it to you. It would make you feel like, ooh, I don't want to go see you because now I'm going to walk out with a car that probably isn't the right fit, or, doesn't have 4 tires. And it's that same kind of feeling.
Yeah, it's not fun, right? It's not the way that we want to shop. It's not the way. And I think in major part, the wedding industry is a business, right? Especially for venue owners. I mean, you're making $500,000, $1 million plus investments in a structure, right? Like it's a business that we're in. But my belief is most couples don't want to feel like they're making a business decision. You know what I mean? And I tell my coaching clients all the time, like, if you're having to sell, you're doing it wrong. And I say it with love, but we don't have to sell on tours, like period, the end. And if I feel like we have to sell on a tour, probably 9 times out of 10, we're not the right fit. And that's okay. Right. But, coaching clients come to me sometimes and I'm like, I just want you to know, like, I'm not going to teach you the magic handshake close, because what I want you to do is more of the right things before they get to the tour. Yeah. And then the tour becomes a formality. And I tell couples sometimes, I'm like, listen, the tour is about, do you like me? Do you like the space? Do we have dates open you're willing to consider? And if you don't like me, that's cool. And sometimes people laugh at that. Like, I'm not going to change. So you're literally going to deal with me for like the next 18 to 24 months. So if we're not the right fit, like, I totally get it. I want to help you find the right venue, even if it's not us.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh. I mean, we've talked about this for years, not just in the wedding industry. And this is just in business in general. If you do not know who you're serving, there's no other steps to go down. And people feel like that's not important. That's the most important thing.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree.
And so for me, I did have that mentality. I'm like, oh, I'm going to remodel the venue. And this was back in 2018. And we're going to do all these great things to the venue. And it's like, that's not what we needed. And then I wasn't priced correctly. That was one of the other things, going into doing. And it's nobody wants to do that. Oh, I got to do the market research. Well, yeah, you do, especially when you're in an area like us where we have 15 to 20 venues around us. So there was a lot of testing and trying, but figuring out who my couple was after figuring out the price. So it was who she was, or he and she was, they were, and then the pricing, and then going back and forth. I'm like, does that match?
Yeah.
Does that match my person? And then we went through do we do a la carte? Do we do the all-inclusive? How do we make the shopping experience easy? Do they, can they see themselves in the space? That's one of the things at COVID. We spent the money on the 360 virtual tour because that's what people wanted. Mm-hmm. I would do, and I still do consultations virtually for clients that aren't here, but it's not the same. Like, you're walking around with your phone and you're trying to show the space. And it was like, I want to be able to shop like I shop from home. I want to be able to click. I want to be in the room. And so, it's all of those things that we listened and we said, okay, what else can we do? If you're not going to come tour us, if you don't live here, if you still don't feel like coming out, it's like, okay, we got to invest in what's best for our client. And that has helped tremendously. And like you said, when people come to tour, I'm not even selling them. It's like, can you picture your friends and family here? Do you see yourself, behind this beautiful fountain? Like, we're creating the experience as they're here, and then let us know. And people are not going to let you know right then and there. Some people, and I know you do, you have a lot of clients that come to you and they book on the spot, but people ask all the time, like, do I need to sign right now? Like, no, like, I know you're shopping. Like, this isn't like, I've never gone to shop for a car and bought a car unless I've done like a immense research and bought the car right then and there. You have to go home. Wedding dress is the same. I mean, how many wedding dresses does a bride try on before she buys a wedding dress?
I have to tell you, that was my biggest regret in our wedding, is that I didn't go have like the bridal experience, I feel like, for dress shopping. So for any of your couples, do that. If you ask me what I regret about my own wedding, I was just like, yeah, this one works. And you never get to have that experience again. So
no, and I don't like to put pressure on couples. I hear it. Oh, well, I went to this venue and they told me like if I don't sign by Monday, like what? And I'm like, okay, well, that's your decision to make. I'm not gonna, do we have booking discounts? Yes, of course we do. Do we have, things that we have an open house? We would love for you to take advantage, but we're not gonna tell you, hey, you can't have this amazing price experience if you don't sign the dot by Monday. Like that's not how we roll.
I wish the industry had like almost more budget respect on both sides. Just the upfront pricing. It's like, I know I'm a planner. I'm technically a vendor. I feel that, oh my gosh, but if I put the pricing on, this is the feeling. If I put the pricing on my website, then therefore someone's going to go without knowing me and knowing my services, what I can do for them. They're going to look at that and go, okay, that doesn't work for us. But the opposite is so true, that it won't work for you, because I'll spend time explaining what I do. And then at the end of the day, it's still not going to work. What someone's budget is someone's budget. What it costs at a venue is the cost. And I would say that those premium venues that, are $10,000 up to be in, you've priced yourself that way. So in all reality, I think it's almost unfair. It's kind of like, again, we go back to this car shopping. But if my bank says, Yvette, you can only get a $20,000 car, but yet someone's telling me, no, but go look at the Mercedes for 80 grand. Look, want, don't you want this? Don't you want this? Well, maybe if I, like you said, if I sell my firstborn child and I put my house in there, it's kind of like a respect of like, some people don't care if people go under debt that much, but there's the side of like, well, but maybe do care that someone could go into debt. But I think it's both ways. But the other thing is, and I'll just say this, and please jump in and tell me what your thoughts are. One thing I would love, and I always say this as a vendor, that the couples truly need to have that conversation between themselves, if it's the two of them paying for the wedding, or their extended family who's ever participating in the finances, to truly come up with what is our true budget. Because again, when you go out shopping and you can put the little pieces in the bubble, this is what we've got budgeted for this amount. So when that connects with the website that clearly tells you this is how much it is to be at this venue, then you can put those, okay, this list of 10 venues works. This list of 10 venues is not going to work, no matter how bad you want it. It's just like, it's not going to, or you learn to like, oh, I'm going to give and take maybe on my photographer so I can jump up and get the venue that I want.
Yeah, I think that's where value proposition comes in for venues too, because if it's just a number, if you're comparing, my perspective for couples would be, make sure when you're doing exactly what you said there, that you're looking at venue plus caterer plus bar at minimum. And so many venues today also include decor. So venue, catering, bar, and decor really starts to give you a picture as a couple, because some venues actually will work in your budget that would be easy to rule out because of price point. But when you look at the bigger picture, that's how it can be possible. But yeah, I just think that we can all do better. I think that we can all do better.
I agree.
I recently had a couple that I am the wedding planner, and she kept sending me all the information from the venue. And I'm like, I'm so confused. Who are you talking to? Who's the main person? Who was the venue owner? Who was the vendor? And then all of a sudden, because she was interested, she got flooded with emails. Oh, I'll be your photographer. And like, whoa. It was almost like an overload of information that I thought, if I'm overloaded as your wedding planner, feeling like, whoa, back up. Let her make some decisions first before we just jump into, hey, let's book this. excuse me, I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Feeling like, whoa. So I couldn't even imagine what someone else would feel like.
The other thing that's tricky, and I'm about to say something that like some venues probably won't love, but I think it's a topic we need to talk about in the industry is so many venues have built and what's very, very common for wedding venues is you have this budget and you think it's going to cost X and then it costs 2X, right? So many venue owners have gone so far over budget building the venue because again, they don't necessarily know who their ideal client is. So they think that they're going to win by adding more and more things. So they've spent so much on the venue that venue fees, I'm going to be in trouble here, but they're getting to the edge of like what's possible. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, just because your market has, 10 venues that are all $8,000 doesn't mean the market needs another venue that's $8,000 or $10,000 or $12,000. We're going to reach a ceiling that's just not going to continue to be sustainable. Because couples have to afford everything else, right? And I think as a venue owner, it's really easy to say, well, as long as they can afford me, I don't care. Well, we saw cancellations happen when couples really weren't educated about what a wedding cost. And I don't want the wedding to suffer. I don't want my couples to have beans and weenies. I really don't want my couples to have to choose an amateur photographer because that's what you have after your wedding day, right? Like that's what you still have. So I think it's important as venues to realize there's only so much percentage of the budget that we can realistically take up before everything else suffers.
God. I feel like you're gonna have a part 2 for this because we can keep on going with why preferred vendors are so important because they fit the budget, right? It's like here's a venue and we know, like I tell my clients, and this is people are gonna kill me, but I can tell you for a 100-person wedding, you're not spending over $20,000. Like and people are like, oh my god, and like good quality bar plated food, like. That is real. That is a real number. And I'm like, if you're spending over $20,000, why? Because most of my couples are getting a house. Maybe they're already married. They want to have a honeymoon. They want to do all the things. And I'm like, you can do all the things, but not most venue owners will do that. Now, it's fine. I don't think it's their responsibility, but I do think, and plug for us, because Just Engage University has a financial course for couples, and it's not just financial on the wedding. It's financial course of the main 3 buckets in your life. And from doing that course, you will figure out, now I can put 15 to 20,000 in my wedding. Now I can have $10,000, that I was going to put in my wedding, but I'm going to have that for my, for buying a home or for my honeymoon. So we're very, when I tell you, yes, your wedding is very important, but buying a home, having children, traveling, that is also as important. That financial course is the #1 selling course for couples because they don't have that conversation until after they get married. They're putting a ring on it and then they're going to get married and they're dropping $30,000. I mean, that's a real number. The average wedding in the United States is $32,000. So it's really that's already part of our society that they're not having financial education on. Now, not all couples, right? There are couples that are, but that to me is important. So as a venue owner, I get that, okay, I know this is exciting, but let's pause. How much money are you really willing to take out of your budget?
And what you just described there is part of your value proposition, right? You're not just a number. You're not just a venue at X amount of dollars, right? Your approach to market there is part of what makes you different. So I love it.
Well,
I have 3 questions before she gets to go. I'm because I just feel like when you're on a platform like this, you really have the availability to say some things that you yourself would never maybe say to your own clients. You would never say to the other vendors around that you are networking with all the time because you just feel like what? But when you have the availability and freedom to be really just yourself, I feel like that brings the value because people want real answers. So 3 questions. 1, what would you tell a couple? What is one thing that you wish are man, the couples that come to my venue or venues, I wish I could tell them this one thing. And then what would you want the venue owners, what is the one thing I wish that I could really just tell venue owners to help them be more successful or better at it? And then finally, we'll end on a happy note. Where do you really see, there's been so many changes, but where do you really see the wedding industry going in the next couple of years?
Okay. I have mom brain, so I very well might need you to ask me I can only do one question at a time.
Okay. Let's start with the couples. What would
Okay.
you really want to share and just share with them?
Man, that's a tough one. What comes up for me is like, ask the tough questions. It can be really easy to fall in love with a space.
Mm.
It can be really easy to fall in love with a space, but it's really important that you like the people that you're working with. And I think that's true of venues, but I think that's true of every category
Yeah.
in the wedding industry. I mean, it's not like we're going to buy a car and I deal with this person one time or maybe two times. Like in what we do, you're going to have a lot of interaction potentially. So it's to me, it's just not worth it to have to deal like with, let the process be fun too. And stacking on that, I think your wedding day is really like the day in your life. You don't get a second chance and you have to learn from somebody else's mistake. And that's tricky, right? But I also think that that's where reviews really start to come in. That doesn't mean I'm not willing to give someone like a new venue owner a shot, right? I definitely would be. But if you find someone who has a lot of bad reviews, it's easy to be like, oh, well, that wasn't right. But trust your gut, because it's the one time in your life that you have to learn from other people's experiences. Also, as a couple, if you're looking at reviews and you're seeing a couple of bad ones, look and see if it's all from the same date. Sometimes people just have really off expectations and then they go and they kind of burn a business online, which I'm just not a fan of. But if it's all from the same wedding, to me, that holds less weight. But if you're seeing trends, listen to your gut. So that's for couples. We asked me your question again for venue owners.
Same thing. If you were in front of, like when you're speaking, but from the perspective of kind of like one of those things, you're like, oh, I really wish I could tell venue owners this. Like,
He's pretty honest with venue owners.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm not one to hold back much. But I will say one that I probably don't say a lot and is pretty real. As a venue owner, your optimism is one of your best traits. You have to be optimistic to open a wedding venue, because who is crazy enough to build a building and hope couples rent your Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays? Like I say it jokingly, but most venue owners are a little crazy. I'm one, so I feel like I can say that, right? It's not judgmental. But oh man, I just totally lost my train of thought. Optimism. But your optimism, it's great. It's a trait that so many venue owners have. It makes you fun to be around. It makes you generally good at touring, but it's also one of the most likely things to get in your way. So you're just assuming tomorrow will be better. You're just assuming next year will be better. That optimism can really stop you from taking strategic action that you should be taking in your business today. I don't say that a lot, but I really do feel strongly about it. So
love that.
That's a good one. That was such a good one. Okay, then the final, did you remember the third question?
You asked me again. I love it.
Okay, that's okay. The third question was, we've just been through a lot. I don't think things are changing that much, and every state is different. But where do you see the wedding industry kind of going in the next couple of years?
Yeah. Okay. We could also have a whole session on this, so I will try to be short.
Yeah, I think we'll end it on this, but we'll get you back on, because I think that is important for the business side of it, but also for couples to hear, because
this can be your trailer.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I dig it. Okay. So I believe that we are in a artificially created bubble in the industry right now. So many couples' weddings were impacted in 2020 that they had to roll over their dates. Some venues were good at managing that and making those reschedules happen in a time that worked for them. Some monopolized a lot of prime dates with reschedules. And there are states that was way tougher than other states. So that's kind of a blanket statement. But 2020 monopolized 2021 dates. That has impacted 2022 dates. So there's this like bubble that's happened in the industry that is truly artificially created demand that is not going to last forever. And from a venue owner's perspective, that, oh my gosh, nobody can find a date anywhere. Nobody can find a venue. That feeling that's happening right now, which market to market, that's more true than others. More desirable venues, more true than others. but that's not something, it'll eventually dissipate, right? But new venues are going to continue to open because that demand, and it looks so hot and sexy again. And it's so interesting to me that like 2019, we went from being like, it's easy and it's fun and like tomorrow's always going to be better, like this totally optimistic look as venue owners. And then 2020, it was like, oh my gosh, are we going to survive? It was so hard in the wedding industry in 2020. It's so hard for couples too, right? All the way around. But now back in 2022, it's like, it's fun and sexy, it's easy again. It's so easy to forget like where we just were. So I see a lot of change coming in the wedding industry in the next few years. And I think that that optimism and not believing that some of that change is coming is going to have some people on their heels. But some people are going to be looking farther ahead and farther down the line and making better strategic decisions in their business now. And I think there's definitely still ways to win.
Great trailer.
Ooh, to be continued.
Start asking you more questions. So we'll table that for the next time we have you on.
Well,
this is so fun.
So before we go, Kristin, and this is in the show notes, it's in everywhere that you're watching or listening to this, but please put in a plug for the amazing work that you do with your venue owners. Best way to find you, reach you, and how venue owners can work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple different things. So at Wedding Venue Owner is where you find me on Instagram, on Facebook. I also have an amazing community of thriving, both prospective and established venue owners community on Facebook. If you search for Wedding Venue Owners Building and Running a Profitable Wedding Venue, or you can just search for Opening a Wedding Venue on Facebook. Either of those, you'll find us there. And then finally, KristinBinford.com. I have a ton of training and resources and blogs. My team does take discovery calls and with venue owners who are ready to make change, want more from their business. And more isn't just bookings, right? More can also be, man, we're so busy, but we want more joy. We want more freedom in our life. And that's something that I'm super passionate about. So,
well, thank you so much for coming on again. We will definitely put a part 2 on where the wedding industry is going in the next couple of years. Congratulations on your amazing success, not only with your venue, but with your couples and with your venue owners. And thank you for being on again. We appreciate you.
Yes,
thank you so much. This was a blast, guys. We could talk all day.
Bye. Oh my God. I absolutely love her. She has been, since 2019, so 3 years of just amazing wisdom and blessings, and love watching her at Wedding MBA. Again, if you're watching, this is all available in the show notes. If you're listening, this will be available in the show notes. If you have questions, just DM us. We will get you to Kristin. And we have some great guests coming this lineup for March, April, May, like super excited, not only on Just Engage University. For those of you guys who don't know, YG Collaborations podcast started back in December. So we have 2 different podcasts. So if you're not loving wedding industry stuff and you're not an engaged couple, join Yvette and I on YG Collaborations. It was so great to see you guys, talk to you guys, and we hope to hear from you soon. Make sure you DM us any other topics you want to hear about. Trust us. We get DMs and we're like, we can make this happen. Questions that you have.
Find more amazing people. We just want to know, like, that was so, like, I love it when we get in the dirt, like the real. That's the good stuff.
Yes. And then don't forget that we have blogs, podcasts, mini courses, anything that you need on justengageuniversity.com. Again, this is why we bring people in like Kristin. We love to give the freebies. So if you need anything from us, you know where to find us, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Bye.